Here's Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Okay, hello, and welcome back to Chasing the Gold podcast. I am Erica Richards, and I am here with my co-host,
Shadan Larkey.
And then we have a very special guest today, Will Bjarnar, who writes for In Session film reviews, and then also is our international feature and adapted screenplay writer for Chasing the Gold. So we were just talking about how excited we are to have you on finally.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like it's a long time coming.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about some things that you have seen so far at New York Film Festival and things that you and Shadan both saw at TIFF. So super, super exciting. Was this okay? So like, I just have some like festival questions.
Yeah.
Was this your first time at either of these festivals, or have you done them previously? Or talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was my first time at TIFF. And I decided, it being my first time, I was going to do the entire thing, which was a mistake. I'll never do that again. It was an incredible experience. It really was. But
yeah,
10 days is too long.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I was completely wiped by the end.
So how many? Do you know how many films you saw? Yeah, how many did you see total?
I think I saw 52.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that's
it
incredible.
Was a lot.
It's funny.
Look, I love it, but God, it was too much.
Yeah. Shadan sent me your list earlier, and I sent back the like I guess everything you saw, and I sent back that that gif from Friends, Jennifer Aniston, when she's like, "I'm so happy for you and not jealous at all," because I look at it as like oh my god, like how many really awesome films you saw, like just that you got to see that many films. But I can't imagine how exhausting that is. Like it sounds like the ideal scenario, but that's exhausting. Yeah, I can only just imagine.
There were a number of days. No, not a number. There was like 1 or 2 days where I had tickets for, I don't even know, God knows what, little things that, you know, I knew I would be able to catch elsewhere once they got to theaters. And I, by like 2:00 in the afternoon, was like, if I go to another screening today, I'm gonna be sleeping in the Visa screening room at the Princess of Wales. Like I'm gonna wake up at 3 a.m. and they're gonna be kicking me out, like putting me in jail for having slept through the night in this theater in downtown Toronto. So I just was like, I can't. I'll do it later. Yeah, I feel very lucky that I got to see so much good stuff, but it was certainly exhausting. As for New York, though, I've gone pretty much yearly since 2019. Except for COVID. I did COVID virtually, but then 2021 through this year, I've gone to at least a couple of films. The last 2 years, certainly more than other years.
Where are you based, Will?
I'm in Manhattan, so it's easy enough for me to race across town.
Nice
for the screenings, which is I'm also very lucky for that.
Yeah, super fun. I take the train. So I'm in Baltimore, and I take the train up to New York all the time, and it's so fun. Yeah. So I'm hoping, I don't know, maybe next year. I would also love to get to TIFF. I don't know. It's a cinephile's dream, right? Just to be at a film festival all the time.
I heard you saying you almost thought about going to TIFF just for Night Bitch. Just fly in, hit Night Bitch, get out.
This Night Bitch needed Night Bitch. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for it. Ready for it.
Let me tell you, when I saw everyone's pictures of the Criterion Closet at New York, I was like, if I knew they were gonna do that, like, oh my god. Did you get to go, Will?
I have not gotten a chance to. They did it this last weekend, and they're gonna do it again next weekend. I might try for next weekend. The lines, guys, it's ridiculous. People are getting there at 7 a.m. and standing in line for 3.5 hours to go into this thing for 3 minutes.
Wow.
And, shell out $50 for Blu-rays, which I do regularly. But That, that's not a responsible habit, and nor is waiting in line for 3.5 hours. I'm going to try. I know Alex from In Session was one of the first people in line the first day, and he had the experience, and went in the closet and got his Blu-rays that he wanted. But kudos to him for getting up that early. I could not make it happen. I think I even had a screening very early in the morning that day. So I'm gonna try. I don't know if I'll be that heartbroken if I miss it, but I'll definitely be bummed. It's a cool thing that they're putting on.
Is anything that we do here responsible? I don't know.
No. No. No.
We do it because we're crazy cinephiles, and yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I hope you can get there. If you can't, like you said, you won't be heartbroken, but it'll be a cool thing to do if you can. So
it's a very,
hopefully,
very cool experience. I'm crossing my fingers. Those 4 hours in line might not be worth it for 3 minutes, but
I'll ask you
how it goes.
What Erica asked me after TIFF, which is like, did you get a chance to eat? Like, what were you like sustaining yourself? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you having any sort of nutritional deficiency at the moment that needs to be addressed?
TIFF was really bad. TIFF was really, really bad. As far as New York, it's a little more spread out. There are less films here than there were at TIFF. But it's also nice that the first week of press screenings is the week before the festival starts, which spaces things out a little bit. So I'm only doing like 2, maybe 3, 4 max films a day. It's more often 2, which is what I did today and the last couple days actually. But I am eating a heck of a lot more during New York than I did during TIFF. TIFF was really bad. I'm not proud of my eating habits during the Toronto International Film Festival. New York is easier though, given that it's home. I can run home, get an actual nutritional meal out of the fridge rather than being like, okay, is there an A&W or a Wendy's around the corner? Right. I can just stop in and get something.
The only in-person film festival that I've been able to go to is South by Southwest in Austin, of course. And I had been to Austin before, so I was like, oh, I'm so excited to go back to Austin. I'm going to eat all the good food. And I was like chowing down on a 7-Eleven hot dog in between screenings, and being thankful that I even got that. Like, I don't think I realized how little time in between screenings I would have. Like, I was doing the scheduling and in my head I was like, oh, I'll have time to run here and there. No, you have no time. You're just like getting back in line and praying that you can pop into like a 7-Eleven on the side of the street and get something. So
yeah, it's nuts. And Toronto was really like, there were times on some days where I had a movie that was like theoretically ending at 4:59, and then I had another movie starting in a different theater at 5, and I was like, I know they're going to do the little introductions, so I probably have a little bit of a buffer here, but still, it's nuts.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing too is, and I think I told you, Erica, like I always see people like socializing with each other at TIFF, and I'm like, how do you have time to do this? Like, I even told myself, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get to see Will, I'm gonna get to see Alex, or like when you were at South by, I was like, Erica and I will go get dinner, drinks, like
yeah.
Like, nope.
I'm glad that we I'm glad that we did get to see each other at South by, but there was no, and then even at the end of the day, if you wanted to go get dinner and drinks, you're just like, I'm so exhausted, I want to go back and just like lay on my hotel bed and forget everything.
That's the thing. I was on the same page as you, Shadan. I mean, I saw Alex quite a bit. We hung out a good amount, but the amount of people that I knew there that I saw that were like, oh, we all gotta meet up and like, I don't know, either get dinner or go out one of these nights after the movies. I'm like, guys, you do understand that like I have to be in line for the Brutalist at like 7 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm getting out of this last movie at 11:45. Like, it's not happening. I'm not going out. I'm going to bed.
Right.
Well, all I heard from that last anecdote was that my in-session boys were hanging out without me. That's
No.
Cool. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in person. I'm sorry that it can't be this year.
Well, I'll just have to come next year, and then we can all hang out.
Yeah. We need to get like an in-session bungalow. Yeah.
That would be so fun. Yeah,
big in-session meetup. Absolutely.
Well, Will, speaking of the film you just mentioned, The
Mm,
Brutalist, I see that is like one of the tops on your list, and I know Shadan is a big fan, and I've just been counting down the days till I can see it. So, do you want to
yeah,
start like talking about that one?
let's do it. Yeah, I think The Brutalist is, there's been a lot of talk since The Brutalist has premiered. Or when it premiered at Venice, there was a lot of talk, especially, given that it's a 3 hour and 15-minute film about, a Hungarian architect who is trying to achieve the American dream. And it's Brady Corbett, or Corbet. I don't know anymore because I was just listening to the Film at Lincoln Center podcast that had his interview or his Q&A after The Brutalist premiered at New York, and they introduced him as Corbet. I've heard Corbett, I've heard Corbet. Either way, I think he is a genius, and a lot of people were throwing around the word masterpiece, and then a lot of people were shooting down the word masterpiece because you can't apparently call a film that is released, you know, at any time. Actually, I just think anytime anybody utters the word masterpiece, everybody's like, nope, no chance. The Brutalist is an exception to that rule. I think it's really, really, it's just a stroke of brilliance. It's one of the most fascinating movies I've ever seen. It's certainly engrossing over the course of 3 hours and 15 minutes. Never once do I feel the length of this movie, which is not something that I can say for all movies that run that long. I just sat through the second film in Wang Bing's Youth trilogy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this trilogy. He started it last year with a film called Youth Spring. It's a documentary that's split into three about textile workers in like a manufacturing plant, and it's 3 hours and 47 minutes, and you feel that thing. Brutalist is not the case. Of course, it's a little different. It's a fiction. It's a historical fiction film. It's a drama. It's all of these things. But I've never seen anything quite like it. I've certainly never seen anything that looks like it. He shot it on VistaVision, which last time it was used in an American film was 1961 with Marlon Brando's One-Eyed Jacks, which is insane that this guy in 2024, 83 years. I'm sorry, not 83 years, 63 years, still quite a long time. 63 years after a film that used VistaVision is pulling it out of the, dusting it off and using it for an American epic. I struggle to come up with words to describe it because I'm really just so moved by the fact that it exists, let alone the fact that it's as good as it is. I've seen it twice now, and I just can't stop thinking about it pretty much every day. It's on my mind. It's one of those movies that sticks with you for a long time. And as you said, it's very high on my list. For a long time, I did not think it was going to there was any chance it would be dethroned. We could talk about the film that dethroned it in a little bit or whenever you guys want to get to it. But as for just in regards to The Brutalist, because I don't think it matters whether or not it's 1, 2, 3, whatever, just the fact that it is going to end up out in the world is important, because it's an original story from a filmmaker that is one of one. He is not the kind of guy who is making films that you've ever seen before, let alone thought of before. He and his partner Mona Fastfold are really, really a special team when it comes to writing and as technicians and just putting it all together at the end of the day. I think the performances in the film are great, especially Adrian Brody, and in session favorite Guy Pearce gives his best performance. I could go on and on about this movie, so I'm going to shut up. But I really do, to circle back, I just think it's 100% a masterpiece, which is not a word I use lightly. I don't know how many films I've described that way.
Well, and here's the thing. So, and I told you when we're discussing having you on, I said, I want to focus on the films that you saw that I haven't seen, but I had to talk to you about The Brutalist because,
of course, yeah,
it just, and I mean, you took the words right. I think so much of what you said was sort of what I echoed to Erica as well. It's just, I can't even describe, and I think I told Erica, like, it's like kind of going to be the kind of movie for me that I will probably rewatch like every year.
Oh my
like,
gosh,
I just feel like, and I can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to, like, now that I know how all of it unfolds, kind of go back and see how certain things. But no, and I do think a masterpiece is, and I think I also told Erica, like, I have certain issues with certain plot points in the film that I didn't like very much, or certain directions that the film takes. But I think it's a masterpiece solely because of the scope and like the ambition and what it's trying to do. And like, it makes you feel things. Like, there's so many movies that I saw at TIFF that I just did not feel emotionally connected to. But The Brutalist, like, I feel like from the moment it started, I just couldn't keep my eyes away from the screen. And I was just so invested in what was happening, even though it was 3 hours long, you know? And I completely agree with you, Will. I think about this film so much. Like, it's just playing in my brain.
I know.
In the, you know, whatever 2 weeks that it's been.
It's one of the, I do agree with you that there are certain elements that of the film that don't work necessarily as well as the rest of it, or the sum of its parts. Like, as we've mentioned, it's very long. There is a 15-minute intermission baked into the movie to split the first part and the second part. I think the second part goes in a direction that's going to certainly divide a lot of people. I think especially the ending. The ending is going to be something that is discussed for some people who might be teetering on like, oh my God, is this amazing? Or am I just, you know, kind of overwhelmed? I think the ending could certainly turn audiences in one of those two directions. Am I just overwhelmed and okay, this thing kind of takes me out, or am I just totally all in on this? Personally, I was totally all in on it. It didn't bother me nearly as much as it's bothered others. But I just think there's so much about it, and it's such a dense text, you know, both in terms of the wording of the script and the visual accomplishment, the performances, the technical elements from the production design. I mean, the Brutalist architecture is somehow both minimalist and maximalist in terms of size, and then in terms of style. But just the way that they render that in the film I've never seen anything like it. What I was going to say is, I think it's very interesting that this movie comes out a year after Oppenheimer, because I think that those are two both very long movies that another one that I consider a masterpiece, and I promise I don't use that word a lot. But Oppenheimer, I was really, really moved by, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time at this point, having seen it as many times as I have. And I just think that, you know, that's about a man who discovers that he has this power, and it sort of unravels his life. The Brutalist is a very similar sort of narrative. It's about a guy who discovers, I have this ability and people are going to exploit me for it. And it's potentially, and, you know, there's the elements of, as there are elements of, you know, communism in Oppenheimer, there's certainly, you know, present elements of anti-Semitism in The Brutalist, because Laszlo Toth, which is Adrian Brody's character, is a Holocaust survivor. And you know, he is viewed a certain way by various people in the film, whether it's positive or negative. And there's a lot of malice that goes on between him and Guy Pearce's character that I don't want to spoil. But I mean, Guy Pearce is he's a devil in this movie, but he doesn't exactly show that to you immediately. You can kind of sense it. But yeah, there's like we've said, there's so much to this movie. It's coming out on December 20th in limited theaters from A24, which I hesitate to mention because our beloved Dave Giannini is just absolutely hates release strategies, and the fact that he's like, great, I'll see it in March or on streaming. But if you can get to it anywhere near you when it comes out at that time, or if it's playing at a festival near you for whatever reason, just I beg of you to make the investment to see it. It's really one of those special things that, whether you love it or you are confounded by it, it's just one of those things that's going to stick with you.
I completely agree. I think I said the same thing. Like, even if you walk away not liking it for whatever reason, you will still appreciate the fact that you saw it. And I can't really think of many movies that are even capable of doing that, let alone everything else that Will has talked about. Another sort of joint movie of ours, Will, that was really special to me, and when it was the top of my list, was Anora. Another movie that I just cannot shake. And I
Same.
really want you to talk about your experience with that one and how that played for you and whether we're sort of on the same page or not with that one.
Yeah, Nora's great. Nora is really, 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 really special. I think it's Sean Baker's magnum opus. That's what I called it. Mikey Madison, she was offered this part just because Sean Baker saw her steal the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he loved her so much in Scream that the Scream reboot, that when he and his wife walked out of the theater, he said, we have to call her agent the second we leave the theater and offer her this part. All he had was the beginning, middle, and end idea of Anora. They hadn't put the words on paper, and he was like, I just know that's Anora, like that Mikey Madison is Anora. And obviously we see her as Anora in the film. I should give a little bit of context. This is a story about a dancer, a stripper in Coney Island, or it's Brighton Beach, in Coney Island, New York, and she essentially meets this powerful son of a Russian oligarch who has a lot of money, and they end up in this sort of negotiated relationship, and then things go. And that's all I really want to say about the movie, because I think it's just, you just have to see it for yourself. It's excellent. Mikey Madison is excellent. I think we've talked offline about how we wanted to discuss a little bit of awards potential with all of these films. Of course, Mikey Madison for me she gives the best performance of the year in this movie. I don't think it really matters if it's actor or actress. I think it's just the best of the year, at least right now for me. I would hand her the Oscar today if I had anything to do with it. I do not. So Anora is another one of those movies that has stuck with me for the better part of this month now, and will continue to do so for the rest of the year. It's littered with excellent performances. Its energy is nonstop. It is, it's like Uncut Gems level stress, which I think is an overused comparison, but really does apply here. But I just think it's also got a lot of heart, and the characters are you invest in them the way that you might not otherwise with maybe a story like this. You may view a story like this and be like, oh, I can't relate to these people. I don't have these people in my life. I certainly don't. As far as I know, I don't know any strippers or Russian oligarch sons. So, but these people are people that I invested in from the moment I saw them on screen. I was like, I am all in on whatever happens to Anora in this movie. I hope she's okay. That's the first thing. I hope she's okay. But yeah, it's a really brilliant film. Mikey Madison is a revelation in it, and Mark Eidelstein, who plays her lover, I guess, if you want to call it. It's an interesting situation there. He's also pretty revelatory in the movie. I'd never seen him before, I don't believe. And yeah, Anora is one that I think is going to be talked about for the rest of the year and beyond. It's great. I know, Shadan, you had a lot of strong feelings about it too.
Yeah, 2 for 2, Will, so far.
Yeah.
Good. You could stay on the podcast. No, what really impressed me about Anora is just how much it's able to balance tonally. I mean, there's it's so funny, but it's dark, and there's so much going on. It's constantly there's something happening on screen, and it's able to do all these things. And it just feels like a magic trick to me. I don't really understand how they were able to pull this off to the level that they did. So yeah, I completely agree with you. One other film, Will, and I know Erica knows I have really, really complicated feelings about this one, and I'm really wrestling with it, and that's Amelia Perez. I still don't know where I land on it. I truly daily will, because I'll think about something about the film that I really love, and I'll just be like, man, that was so cool. And then I'll be reminded of something else that didn't work for me as much. I'm on such a seesaw, and I just wonder where do you land with this?
I'm still figuring it out. but not least because I literally just got out of it an hour and a half ago. I'm really wrestling with this one. It's a lot of movie.
Yeah.
I really hate when movies set themselves up in their trailers, and I'm trying to get better about just avoiding trailers altogether, but sometimes I just can't help myself. But I really hate when movies set themselves up as like I just remember the Argyle trailer, and Emilia Perez is more than 1,000 Argyles put together could ever be. But Argyle said, like, from the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn. And Matthew Vaughn, who directed the Kingsman series, does not have a twisted mind. There's nothing twisted about him. And he's just trying to sell this thing as like, I'm like this twisted genius. Well, the Emilia Perez trailer sells it as from renegade auteur Jacques Audiard. And I like Jacques Audiard's films. I haven't seen all of them. I like the ones that I've seen. The Sister's Brothers, I think is quite good. But this is certainly a work of auteurism. I'm not sure how renegade it actually is. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of think this movie is a hell of a lot tamer than it thinks it is. I think there's a lot happening, and I don't really know if much or any of it works. Again, I'm still wrestling with it. I think that it's a story about this crime lord, essentially, who realizes that she is a woman, and hires Zoe Saldana's character, who's a lawyer in the film, to help her, find a space to make the necessary transition. And in doing so, she has to deal with, her wife at the time and children. And I know you guys discussed this on the TIFF podcast. Just for the sake of a little bit of background, I'm listing this off. But first of all, it's a very showy movie, and there's something to be said for that. I think that's kind of cool. I think it's certainly a different approach to a story like this than some other films have taken in the past. But I think the songs kind of all stink. I don't think any of them are very good. I think the music in the background is like the beats themselves are actually something I could latch onto, but there's nothing really there in the lyrics for me. And not just for me. I just don't think they're very good, to put it plainly. But again, it's a beautiful looking movie. I think story wise, it's actually relatively straightforward. I was talking to a couple people when I got out of the movie today, and we were all kind of saying, where does this movie stand on the things it's talking about, which I know you guys discussed as well on your part 2 of your TIFF podcast. I really don't know, because I mean, there is a song early in the movie that really bluntly describes the transitioning process. And I am really baffled by, like, is this a satire? Is this just like trying to reflect how some cultures view this, and Audiard is, parodying it in a way? I would like to hear it from him, frankly. I don't know. I would like to hear it from is it Carla Sofia Gascon? I would like to hear from her. It's a lot of movie. It's very showy, like I said. It's chaotic. Some of it is really, really entertaining. I'm really split down the middle with this. It's complicated, and I think it's almost guaranteed to win Best International Feature, which is just fascinating.
Well, and here's the thing, for those of you who are not watching this and listening to this, I am nodding so much that I might have like neck issues after this. But I completely agree with you. And you've been sitting with this for an hour and a half. I've been wrestling with the same thing, Thank you for mentioning the songs. The songs are not good to me, and I think I told Erica I would have preferred if it was just not a musical, because I don't think that those musical numbers add anything to the film at all, in my perspective. And I think you said something really brilliant about it's actually a lot tamer. So I think it's like trying to position this as maybe something that's like progressive or wild and crazy, and I'm like, but it's not. Like, I don't understand.
There's another musical this year that will be coming out later in the year called The End by Joshua Oppenheimer, who made 2 incredible documentaries back in the mid 2010s, The Act of Killing and The Look of Silence. And this is his first, fiction film, narrative film, I should say. And it's a musical that takes place at the end of the world. It stars George Mackay, Tilda Swinton, Michael Shannon, among others, Moses Ingram. I think that movie, the songs they're very, very like old style golden age musical songs. And I'm all on board with them because I actually think they kind of, for whatever reason, they fit within this story of this old money family that has no way of reckoning, or they're oblivious to their involvement in the end of the world. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Shadan. The songs in Emilia Perez, I think it's an audacious move to make this film musical, and that's fine. But they just don't work necessarily in moving the plot forward at all. I think there's a lot of I think I wrote in my notes something along the lines of the lyrics in these songs are just kind of once again spelling out something that the film has already said, and they're just doing it in song form, which might be why this movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Like they're just repeating themselves over and over again, sometimes over the course of this big dance number with music and lyrics. It just isn't that part of it didn't work for me. Again, I think there's a lot of big swings and a couple of them are base hits, maybe one home run here and there, but more often than not, I think it's a swing and a miss. Zoe Saldana, however, and Carla Sofia Gascon both give incredible performances. I think they are both truly great. I think the fact that Zoe Saldana is being run in Best Supporting Actress is absurd because she is ostensibly the lead of this movie. If you actually watch it, she's in it certainly more than anybody else. I think the less said about Selena Gomez in this movie, the better. Just put that out there. But yeah, I think the performances at their core are really strong. I just don't know if the movie that surrounds them really, comes together.
Do you see an Oscar nomination for Selena at this point? Where do you sit on that?
I sure do. Okay. I think she is almost like a definite for the Golden Globes. How, if they ever get their shit together, the Golden Globes like musical comedy category is going to just be all Emilia Perez, as well as whatever smattering of comedies they pull out of their butt. But as far as the Oscars go, I think this is I don't know. I can't put my finger on why. I think just because it's so much, just screams Oscars to me, and also I think it's Netflix's biggest play for everything across the board. Like they have, I was talking again earlier with some people after the movie, they have The Piano Lesson with Daniel Deadwyler. That's kind of their only move there. They have His Three Daughters, which is kind of just fallen off the map, oddly. And then they have this, and I want to say they have another title. They have Will and Harper, but that's only a documentary play. They have a couple of things here and there that they may try to throw some weight behind, but Emilia Perez as a movie is the biggest thing that they're really going to push forward. And I think that they will do whatever they have to do to get those 3 nominated, because the 3 of them combined. I know you mentioned this on the pod the other day, Shadan. They all won Best Actress at Cannes as a collective. As far as how that translates to Oscar voting, I don't know that it necessarily does, but I think that for whatever reason, there's a very, very good chance that all 3 of them receive nominations. I think that I would prefer that only 2 of them get them, just because I don't really think that Selena Gomez does much at all in the movie. Just to be frank, like I don't think she does much, but we'll see.
No, I'm with you on that. That's why I was like, am I the only
Yeah.
person who feels this way? Because I keep seeing praise, and I just don't think that, and it's not even her fault. I just don't think the role is giving her enough to have, like, there's no meat on the bone for her.
That's, you stole the word right out of me. I was literally I'm glad I didn't blurt it and let you say it. There is no meat to it whatsoever. It's just kind of, it is a glorified, frankly, it's a glorified wife role in a movie, and it's handled that way. You know, wife roles are handled very poorly in movies, and this just gets a couple more stairs, or a couple more steps up the stairs than other movies, you know, handle that role. So I'm not too sold on this one yet.
Yeah. One Netflix movie that I think it's a Netflix movie is Maria. That's going to be Netflix, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That was the other one that I neglected to mention. Yes.
So let's talk about that, because I'm so intrigued by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did you feel about that one?
Maria is, I think it's really, really solid. I do. I like it quite a bit. I think it's one of, I loved Jackie and I really liked Spencer, but there are elements of Maria that certainly surpass Spencer. Maybe not Jackie. Jackie is really great, man. I love that film. But there are elements of Maria that go beyond what Spencer did. It's also very different. You know, Spencer was a very, very dark movie. A lot of the tone of that movie was like, this is, you know, everybody knows now how messed up the Princess Diana situation was, and how, you know, her relationship with the royal family and how they treated her, and God only knows what happened, you know, in that car. But we're not going to get into conspiracy theories. That's for a different podcast entirely. I don't know. Go follow like NPR. But as far as Maria goes, it's like a eulogy of a film for this brilliant artist, Maria Callas, La Callas, as she was often, you know, romantically called by the people who admired her. And she's played by Angelina Jolie. Maria Callas is an opera singer, for those who are not aware. And Jolie gives a performance that is, you know, one of the very first scenes you see of her in the movie is kind of a montage of that's just setting up who this person is for the audience. And it's abundantly clear in that first scene that you are not going to be hearing Angelina Jolie singing, which is, let's just be clear, that's for the best. This is not one of those situations where we know Rami Malek can sing and we just are going to have him lip sync. I just realized how that came across. I don't know if Angelina Jolie could sing. I have no idea. I'm just saying that she can't sing like Maria Callas. Nobody can sing like Maria Callas. So it's for the best that they just end up using like a hybrid, I believe, which is what they did with Rami Malek and Freddie Mercury's voice, and what they do with Jolie and Callas's voice here, just kind of blending the two together to make it work and sound like her. I could be wrong there, but regardless, once you get past the fact that, you know, she's not the person who's belting out these notes, and, you know, you can tell that she's doing her best to, you know, exude the fact that that she might be singing or maybe isn't singing. Once you get past that, it's a really harrowing performance. It's a physical performance. It's an often funny performance, but it's also deeply sad, because this is a portrait of a woman at the end of her life, and, you know, she is struggling. Basically, the story is like, can she sing one last time, because she has had some health scares and she's really struggling, and, you know, she's become addicted to pills, and, you know, can she pull it all together to sing one last time? And the movie kind of charts that, as well as it pieces together a lot of the big events of her life. And the structure is very interesting. Ed Lockman, the cinematographer, who has been puttering around the New York Film Festival with a cane and or a wheelchair for weeks now. He's wearing like a bolo hat it's my favorite thing every single day when I walk in and I see Ed Lockman's watching another movie. But he went absolutely God mode in this movie. It is one of the most beautifully shot films I've seen all year. Maria is a really, really strong effort from Pablo Larraín. I think as far as the writing goes, the writing is really what held me back from putting it on the same sort of level as I would a Spencer and certainly a Jackie. It's very, very on the nose melodramatic writing of like lines that say, opera is my life and my life is opera. And then everybody in the audience goes, and I'm like, what the, okay, guys, really? That's what got us? That's what moved us to our core. Like, I don't know. It's that sort of cheesy, like, meatball down the middle type writing doesn't work for me very often. So that might've been what held me back, but performance wise and just the look of the movie and Lorraine's direction, I think, and the structure of the film, I think it all really works. It works really well. I think it's going to be a hit on Netflix, and I think Jolie certainly has a chance at taking home a second Best Actress Oscar.
Wow. So you think not only could she get in, but she could potentially win?
I think she could. Yeah, I think it's a really, really strong performance. It's not quite like anything we've seen her do before in a lot of ways. She's been in a lot of showy lead parts, but this is inhabiting the soul of a person that people recognize, and the Oscars love that. And so I think she's certainly going to get nominated. As I said, Mikey Madison would be my preference here. But it wouldn't surprise me if they were just like, you know what, one more for Angie. Why not? Just one more. Mikey Madison's in her 20s. She'll be back. All these things that the Oscars love to do when they're like, this is easily the best performance of the year, but they're so young, and we have this other, elder statesman of the industry that we have to award one last time or for the first time. So I wouldn't be surprised.
And you think we could be seeing some like below the line? Because to be
Yes.
honest with you, I thought it was going to be the kind of thing that was like Jolie or bust, but that doesn't seem like.
I think Ed Lockman should probably see a nomination. I think it's really, really special work. I think that there could be some production design here. The manor, her apartment is like a manor, and it's amazing. I think the costume design is really special as well. Cody Smith-McPhee plays like a reporter in the film. Cody Smith-McPhee, for people who don't know, was the younger man in The Power of the Dog, and also the guy who tells Tom Hanks's Colonel Tom Parker he's white in Elvis. Hopefully it helps people, but yeah. So he has a prominent role in this movie. I don't want to reveal too much about it, but he looks great. He's got like ascots going on the whole time. Yeah, I think there could be some below the line stuff here. Again, it's definitely Jolie's movie, and everybody else is just working on it. But there's opportunities there. It's a strong, well-rounded movie. Again, not one of my bigger favorites of the festival so far, but certainly something that I admire from a technical standpoint, and definitely from a lead performance standpoint.
What other treats? Oh, go ahead, Erica.
I just wanted to say, like, for outside looking in, you guys have seen these movies and I haven't. I just want to comment on how different they all are. Like the movies we've talked about so far, like The Brutalist, Anora, Amelia Perez, and this one, they're all so different, and it's so interesting and like makes me really excited to see them. I love that we're not just being like spoon-fed the same thing this year, everything is so different. Like hearing you guys talk from The Brutalist to Anora especially, I was like, oh, these are so different, but like they're all in the conversation, which is like so exciting and fun and makes it really interesting.
I certainly think the first three we've talked about today have opportunities to end up in the best picture race too, which
Right.
makes, like you said, all so different. It's a
So
fascinating
different.
dynamic.
But that's such an
Yeah.
interesting point to Erica, because I'm like, well, if the Oscar voter who is gonna like vote for the Brutalist like up and down their ballot, like, are they gonna
Right.
watch Amelia Perez and be like checking that off too? Like,
Exactly.
Mm.
These are my exact thoughts. I'm thinking
yeah.
it's so funny to sit there and think, because I don't know about you guys, but like, I obviously see all the Oscar nominated films every year, or try to at least.
Of
I have
course.
for the past few years, and it's always so fun. I don't know if I'm assuming the theaters around you guys do this too, where it's like they do their like Oscar showcase, where it's like you pay like $40 and you get to see all of the Best Picture nominations. And I love it because there's always like a few like little elderly couples that I always see come in, and like I'm like, I know that they're seeing every single film, right? And I'm imagining them seeing The Brutalist and then seeing Anora. And again, I haven't even seen these films, but I just know, right? And I'm just imagining them seeing these films and just being like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's just going to be so interesting for those people that do seek out seeing all those films, I think,
Yes. my parents used to do the Oscar showcase
Yeah.
at my hometown AMC. I don't think they actually
Uh-huh.
do it there anymore, but they used to do it. And
Okay.
I remember that one year my mom made it about like 25 or 30 minutes into Wolf of Wall Street before she said that's enough and left.
Yes,
I'd be
exactly.
fascinated. I'd be fascinated to see her make it through the first 20 minutes of Anora. Anora's
Right.
different.
Right. I love that
but,
you describe Nora,
know.
by the way, as like uncut gems kind of thing, because that just makes me even more excited. Like, I'm
Yeah, I
all in
think
on
that's
that.
definitely that's a good easy. I can point to that and be like, if you liked that level
Yeah.
of stress experience
Yeah.
of go, we have no idea what's going to happen to this person by the end, then Anora will
Right.
definitely,
And
tickle your fancy.
I love that because Uncut Gems, now that I've seen it so many times, right? Like, we'll rewatch it, which, like, crazy to rewatch that film. But I love a film that can make me feel suspense even the second time around when I know it's going to happen. So
Yep.
I love that. Like, if it can do that multiple times, I'm in. So
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
No,
But I just had to,
No,
like,
you're fine.
I had to chime in and
Important
just be like,
tangents.
yeah, these
Yeah.
films are all so different, and it's so, I mean that in like the most exciting way. Like, I love that, like, we're doing these, like, taking chances on different films and different stories, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I will say, and I think I said this, like, Anora and The Brutalist, why I think they're so strong is because it is the kind of movie that I could recommend to my mom and be like, maybe everything in this is not going to work for you, but like at the end, you'll be happy that you saw it. And I feel like that's why I feel so strongly about both of those films. Will, I have to tell you, one of my most anticipated movies of this year that I'm so upset was not at TIFF was The Nickel Boys. Because the Underground Railroad, also written by Colson Whitehead, is one of my favorite like adaptations. I do think that's a masterpiece that just nobody saw because it was on Amazon, unfortunately. And I
People are the
have
worst.
said this. Yep. Yes. Those are the people that are listening to conspiracy theory podcasts and not listening to us. And I have said multiple times that Origin was my favorite movie of last year, and Ingenue Ellis Taylor should have gotten an Oscar nomination and potentially won last year. So what did you think of the Nickel Boys? What did you think of the Nickel Boys in terms of covering adapted screenplay for us? Like, where does that fit for you?
Nickel Boys is the best film of the year. Certainly. And so The Brutalist, like I said, was like number one with a bullet. I hadn't seen anything like it, and I was like, what the heck is going to even come close? And of course, Nickel Boys, if anybody's familiar with the story, is a story of two young black men, Elwood and Turner, who meet at this reform camp that is, disguised to them as like, you go here, you do your couple weeks and you graduate. Well, it's not quite that. And this takes place in, I believe it's the the 1950s or 60s, and so racism is rampant, and it's a harrowing story, and so it's very different. There's a lot of differences obviously between this and The Brutalist, but yeah, it's my favorite film of the year, and I don't think it's particularly close. It really 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 wrecked me, and moved me and surprised me. You can tell in the trailer, so I don't think this is a spoiler. It's shot almost entirely in POV. So you are constantly basically looking out into the world through one of these two boys' eyes. And the director, Ramel Ross, who directed a Oscar-nominated documentary back in, I want to say 2017 or 18, Hale County this evening. He's a photographer by trade, and a documentarian. This is his first fiction film, first adaptation, all of that. I think he's like a genius that is operating on a level that nobody can understand. I was lucky enough to go to the press screening, which was followed by the New York Film Festival opening night press screening, which was followed by Q&A with him and his cast. And then the last night there was a talk with him and Barry Jenkins that I attended as well. And just listening to him talk I just feel like I'm listening to like a mind that is just operating on its own playing field. And this movie is, as an adaptation, there are liberties taken from Colson Whitehead's source text, but it's a really really powerful adaptation in its style, and the fact that POV is something that he saw when he, after he read the book. He's talked about how he didn't necessarily see it while he was reading it, but then once it was over, he was like, I know that this is the only way I can tell this story. I love this movie, and it's really hard to watch. There's a lot about it that's really heartbreaking, but I haven't gotten it out of my head since Friday. It won't leave my head anytime soon. I'm looking forward to seeing it again and again and again. And it's not the kind of movie that normally people would be like, I can't wait to watch this, because it's really, really rough. Like it's not a movie you walk away from smiling, high-fiving, being like, God, what a fun time we just had at the theater. It's just not that. But if you're prepared to meet it on the terms it sets for itself, I really think you're going to be moved by it. It's my favorite film of the year. I think it's the best film of the year.
That's really exciting.
I love it so much. I love it so much. I Ramel Ross is. I read the book. Yeah.
Okay.
And I love the book.
Yeah.
It's also really hard to read. Colson Whitehead's a genius too. I think Ramel Ross's vision of it is fascinating. I don't really know. I wish I had a mind that operated that way. I think all of us can say that when we read fiction books, especially. Can I talk? No, I'm too overwhelmed by Nickel Boys. Fiction books especially, we will look at it and we'll envision the characters in our minds and the events of the book in our minds, and it kind of plays out as a personal movie in our own brains. But when I read Nickel Boys, this is not what I saw, and the fact that he could see this that just tells you how brilliant of an artist he is. He sees the world in a different way than any other person sees it, and I'm struggling to talk about what this movie is, because I just want people to see it when it comes out and to experience it on their own terms without having any other person's experience inform theirs. So I apologize for doing this to both of you as well, but I'll just wrap up by saying I think the performances within are astounding. I think the adaptation and Ramel Ross's direction are some of the most special artistic work that I've seen in years. And this is what I think is the best movie of the year.
Wow. I feel like I don't even know. Okay, well, so those were the movies that I sort of had on my radar. But like I know there's also some other movies that you felt really passionately about that you wanted to bring us. I don't know how we like move on from that and if we could top that moment that we just had, but you can
Yeah, do you want to talk
try.
about Nutcrackers? Like, no. Let's
but okay,
not do that.
All jokes aside, I like appreciate you saying that it's not an easy watch, it's not a tough watch, it's not something that you leave the theater like smiling and high-fiving and all those things. But is it weird to say, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, and I think you both feel the same, is that you want to leave the theater feeling something. You want to leave the theater thinking, oh my gosh, I just experienced something, and that's, again, all these films we've talked about, to hear you guys say, like, I can't stop thinking about it. Like, I want to see something like that, right? Like, the movies that are the top of my list that are, however old, they're movies that I think about all the time still, right? And I feel like I'm always searching for that next movie that I'm gonna not, like, be able to stop thinking about. And, like, just to know that there's, like, at least a handful this year that can make me feel that way is, like,
I got
exciting.
three that we've talked about today. Nickel Boys, Brutalist, and Nora. Like, those are three this year that I'll take to every single person in my life from here on out and be like, you gotta see this movie. Dune Part 2 for a long time was just like number one with a bullet for me. Best film of the year. I think it's massive. It's a massive artistic achievement. Again, that's a different sort of adaptation. I love that series and Denis Villeneuve and everybody involved. And then I see all these movies and I'm like, yeah, there's just a different, there's somewhere else you can go here. And I'm a big physical media head. Like I'm obsessed with owning the physical copy and being able to say, this is mine to watch whenever I want. It's not on streaming. It's in my possession. These especially, and there are others that'll end up on my year-end list or my end of festival list, all of this stuff that I want to own. But these three, especially the Nickel Boys, Brutalist, and Nora, are ones that like I want to have in my possession so that anytime somebody new enters my life, I can be like, hey, have you seen this?
Right.
Okay. Like that, and not just be next 2 hours and 20 minutes or 3 hours and 15 minutes of your life are dedicated to this experience alone. Anyway.
Well, Will, you said something really beautiful though that I want to touch on, which is like, yes, the Nickel Boys can be a tough watch, but you kind of have to be willing to meet it where it is and be willing to go on that ride. And I think that that's such an important piece that people miss, which is like, and there's a lot of people who don't want to meet it where it is, right? They're not willing to put that work in. And I understand that sometimes you're not in the right frame of mind, you're not in the right place. And I respect that. But I think there is something to be said for saying like, no, I'm going to put myself in this position to experience this and look at everything that awaits me when I do that. And I hope that if people get anything out of this podcast, it's to put themselves in a position where they can be open to these films.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you touched on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I think another thing that I want to mention, the POV thing, it's really pissed me off seeing, like, I'm not going to get angry. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm cool.
You're allowed to get angry here. We allow it. We allow it.
So like,
work through your feelings.
I appreciate this safe space,
Yeah.
Therapy's later in the week, but so it's really driven me nuts how many people in the aftermath of seeing this movie at the New York Film Festival who have responded by saying, I just hate POV. So I couldn't, like, this movie wasn't for me. Yeah, maybe movies aren't for you then.
Yeah.
Like really the perspective of how a movie is shot is going to take you out of every other beautiful element that it brings to the table. The fact that it's telling an important story, that it's beautifully performed. Shadan, you mentioned Origin with Anjanu Ellis. You never get her point of view in this story, but you see a good amount of her, and she's brilliant in this movie. The boys, I need to apologies. I need to look up their names because I want to make sure I have it right. Yes. So Brandon Wilson and Ethan Harris, or Heresy, I should say. They're going to be stars, these two kids. And like I've said, Ramel Ross, the way that he and Jocelyn Barnes wrote this script, I think the POV is that's the way he felt this story was going to be best told. He felt that this is the proper way for us to see the images he's putting on screen. And if you can't get past that and that takes you out of the movie, I really don't know how to help you. Like, I understand that people have their preferences, but I have such a hard time. Like, Sean Fennessy is one of my favorite movie watchers and critics at The Ringer, and he tweeted something the other day that that really stuck with me. He said it's alarming how many people are saying, make it the way I want it to be, or make it the way I like it. If you cannot respond to a movie because it doesn't meet you on your terms, then really movies just aren't going to be for you, because every single person who makes a movie, unless it's this, soulless slop, like, I don't know, a word that, maybe sounds like Carvel, just you're not going to, you're shutting yourself out to so much beauty and so many profound storytelling experiences. Like, a couple of years ago when he accepted his award for fittingly enough, best original screenplay, not adapted screenplay, original screenplay, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite said, if you can overcome the 1 inch tall barrier of subtitles, you'll open yourself up to so many more beautiful films. If you can get over somebody telling a story through a point of view that you're not used to, God, welcome to the world and enjoy. You're going to feast, be merry, like, go forth, young one, enjoy. Like, it's just drives me nuts when people are like, no, I don't like this perspective, so it took me out. Like, shut up.
Yeah,
Sorry,
like,
I'm done.
challenge yourself. Yeah, no, go off, King. I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything you've said. I mean, as the movie person in a lot of people's lives, as I'm sure you both are, people come to you looking for recommendations. And if they're not looking for something more than like a safe rom-com or
Yeah.
a story we've seen 1,000 times, right? I'm always telling people to, like, challenge yourself. Like, oh, well, I don't watch foreign films. Well, why not? You know how to read. We're like,
Yeah. You can
just
read.
watch it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
And I guarantee you, when you're in the comfort of your own home and you're watching one of those safe rom-coms on Netflix, you have the subtitles on.
Yeah, not me,
promise.
but not me.
Either.
But
I prefer not to either. But I know the amount of people that I've seen be like, yeah, I'm watching, that new show, Nobody Wants This, with what's her face?
Yeah,
Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. I have the subtitles on just in case. I'm like, oh, but you can't watch,
right?
Beau Travail. Get over yourself.
Just challenge yourself, because my thing is, in undergrad, when I was taking my first few film classes, and I really had never, tapped into the world of foreign film, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff out there. And instead of just thinking like, oh, I just don't watch those for whatever reason, right? Like, I was a dumb 20-year-old, like, I would have missed out on so much. And I love that we're making this point of, like, challenging yourself, or, just, again, different perspective. I look forward to different perspective in film. Like, I love, show me something different, show me something new, fresh that I've never seen, whatever. And you talking about that POV in Nickel Boys makes me even more excited. But I am someone who loves to be challenged by film. But I think that's, like, a great point, that for someone to write it off and to say, like, oh, I couldn't even, it's like, you don't deserve to be there.
Like, it's different. Nickel Boys is different. It looks different than normal. Like, this could have been told in a way that you're used to, but it's not, because the artist who made it didn't think it would work that way, or didn't think it would work as well that way. So
it was,
anyway,
it was a choice. It was a choice.
And it's a deliberate choice that he made, because that's what served the story he's telling the best. And goddamn, did it work for me.
Yeah. Okay, so now that the rant is over, the much needed rant, I feel better. I hope you feel better.
I'm gonna cancel therapy.
No. Yeah, you don't even need it anymore. We just have so much good stuff to talk about. I think we're gonna wrap here and have you back again very, very soon, so we can discuss more of your favorites, and maybe do some superlatives from the film festivals that you both were at, because there's just too much good stuff to talk about. So
I'm looking at my list right now as we say this, and there's so many freaking hidden gems that people should be looking out for, that we need more time than we have to
Yeah.
discuss. So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
this is
The
good.
fact that you saw 52 films an hour podcast isn't enough.
We don't have to talk about that.
Shadan, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, Will, since you're our guest, I'm just curious, like, do you have any like parting thoughts, or just like, what are you gonna take away most from your experience thus far, or sort of like where are you right now emotionally after this therapy session of ours, which I can happily bill you after we're done.
Yeah, no worries. Copay, I'll send along my insurance information. I feel that physically and personally I'm exhausted. And I'll be okay. But I'm really let me piece my words together here properly. I am very lucky that this is something I get to do, that I get to pop around and see a lot of movies. I don't take it for granted. I living in New York makes it very easy for the New York Film Festival, and also the fact that there are this is one of the cities that a lot of movies will come to first, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I never forget that. So, and especially when it comes to this festival, it's my favorite time of year every single year. The opening weekend, as it is every year, was pouring rain the entire time. So as we talked about at the beginning, the Criterion Closet, the people who were waiting in line for God knows how long, in the rain too. Kudos to them. But regardless, this is my favorite time of year every single year at the New York Film Festival. And, adding TIFF to that mix is certainly making things interesting, but I'm excited to hopefully be doing it every year. And I'm excited to continue to talk to you guys about more of the films that we've gotten a chance to see, because I'm sure there's even more crossover that we don't even realize.
Yep. What a great place to end it. Will, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you? Whether it's in session or other, plug your work.
Sure.
Because, and I've said before, I'm lucky enough to get to edit at least some of your work, and it's just a joy to read. So,
thank you. That's very
plug
kind.
away, my friend.
Sure. That's very kind. So it's my Twitter handle is at by Will Bjarnar, last name spelled Bjarnar. And pretty much everything I write ends up on there in some form or fashion, but I do a lot of work for In Session. I do a lot of work for Next Best Picture, Geek Vibes Nation, Big Picture, Big Sound, Screen Sphere, a little bit here and there. Hopefully some new ones coming up soon too. Hopefully some stuff coming down the pike. So I'm very thrilled that it's festival season, because there can never be too much content. There can only be too little sleep. That is very apparent.
Perfect. Well, this was so much fun. Like, can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, can't wait
This
to
was
hear
awesome.
more. Yeah, this was so fun. Of course, follow In Session Film.
Do it
on Twitter, Instagram, all the things. Shadan, you are at Shadan Larkey on all the things. I am at eRock Reviews, and until next time, seriously, can't wait to have you back. This is going to be really fun to finish.
I'm already counting down the days.
Yeah,
I need this Slack in my inbox ASAP. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
That's a wrap.
This is fun.
Thanks.